What if I told you the most powerful man in the ancient world started his day the same way only 1% of people do today? At 5 a.m., while the entire empire slept, Marcus Aurelius rose not to command armies, not to issue decrees, but to conquer something far more difficult himself. This was the hour when the philosopher king built an unshakable mind. Before the noise, before the chaos, before the demands of Rome, he forged clarity, discipline, and purpose in complete silence. And the shocking truth, the habits he practiced at dawn are so rare, so simple, and so powerful that almost no one today follows them. Imagine waking up and unlocking the exact routine that shaped an emperor's mind, a routine designed to eliminate anxiety, sharpen focus, strengthen discipline, and prepare you to face the world with unbreakable calm. Over the next few minutes, you're going to discover exactly what Marcus Aurelius did at 5 a.m. and how these ancient Stoic morning rituals can change everything in your life. If you've ever wondered what separates the 1% from everyone else, this is the answer, and it begins before the sun even rises. Part 1. The Awakening. At 5 in the morning, when the sky is still dark and the world hasn't yet remembered its own name, something powerful begins to unfold. Not out there in the noise, but inside you, inside the place where discipline is born and destiny is shaped. This was the same silent hour when Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher of the ages, rose from his bed not to command armies or sign decrees, but to command something far more difficult himself. Most people never experience this moment. In fact, only about 1% of the population wakes up with this kind of intention. But the ones who do, they shape their lives in ways the other 99% never understand. And as we step into this story, I want you to imagine the world Marcus lived in, Rome, nearly 2,000 years ago. The palace corridors are dimly lit by torches still burning from the night. The air is cold, untouched, and every servant and general sleeps quietly in their chambers. Yet in one simple wooden bed, not a golden throne, not a royal platform, but a soldier's frame, Marcus Aurelius opens his eyes. He does not rise because it is easy. He does not rise because it is pleasant. He rises because he believed one truth that guided his entire life. You must build yourself to be ready for the day, not dragged by it. That belief was the cornerstone of his identity. And before he moved even a single muscle, he reminded himself of a line he later wrote in his Meditations: I rise to do the work of a human being. This line, repeated in silence, was his ignition, his spark, the beginning of his Stoic morning ritual. Modern science now tells us something fascinating. Harvard research shows that the first 10 seconds after waking determine the emotional direction of your entire day. Most people reach for their phones. Marcus reached for his purpose. So take a slow breath with me. Inhale and exhale. And quietly say to yourself, I rise today with intention. Good. Hold on to that feeling as we continue. Marcus did not rush. He did not spring from bed like a panicked soldier. Instead, he sat upright, letting stillness settle around him like armor. This was the first battlefield of the day, the battlefield within. He asked himself a simple but profound question: what kind of person will I choose to be today? Not what others need him to be, not what the empire demands, but who he as a human being decides to become. This moment, this question is the exact point where ordinary lives diverge from extraordinary ones. Because Marcus understood that the world would challenge him. He wrote, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive. But he also admitted something deeply human: he didn't always feel like waking up. In fact, he wrote, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. Even an emperor wrestled with comfort. Even a philosopher felt the pull of soft blankets. Even a powerful mind fought the same battle you and I fight every single morning. But Marcus always chose truth over comfort, and that is why we still speak his name 20 centuries later. Say this with me now, gently. Comfort is a choice. Discipline is a decision. Again. One more time. Good. Now imagine the person you would become if for the next 30 days you made one disciplined decision each morning. The shift would be extraordinary. Marcus's morning was not aesthetic. It was not crafted for beauty or praise. It was built for clarity. Modern research echoes his ancient wisdom. Early risers have 43% higher goal completion rates. Morning intention setting reduces stress by over 27%. People who wake early consistently report greater clarity, greater purpose, and a deeper sense of meaning. Marcus wasn't just practicing philosophy. He was optimizing his brain long before neuroscience existed. So here's your practice. When you wake up before the world gets a chance to touch your thoughts, repeat one grounding sentence. Today I choose discipline over comfort, or I am in control of my mind, or the ancient line itself, I rise to do the work of a human being. 6 seconds that recalibrate your identity and reshape the day ahead. Now picture Marcus standing from his bed. The palace around him is silent, unaware that he has already won the first battle of the day, the battle against inertia, the battle for intention, the battle within. And although he rose early, he knew that awakening was only the beginning. The true transformation, the forging of his unshakable mind, began next in something far more powerful than action. It began in stillness. And that is where we are headed next. Because in the stillness of dawn, Marcus Aurelius built the mental armor that allowed him to rule an empire without losing himself. In the next part, you will enter that silence with him and discover the Stoic practice that only the strongest minds in history ever mastered. Part 2. The Stillness. At 5 in the morning, Marcus Aurelius did something that almost no one in today's world ever does. He didn't reach for scrolls. He didn't speak to guards. He didn't call for servants, advisors, or generals. He reached for something far rarer, far more powerful, far more difficult to sit with silence. And in a world where noise dominates every waking moment, the silence he chose wanted an absence of sound. It was an environment for transformation. Because stillness is not empty. Stillness is where the mind reveals itself. Picture the emperor standing in a dimly lit chamber. The air still carries the chill of the night. A single oil lamp flickers beside him, casting long shadows onto the marble walls. This is the moment when most people feel the urge to fill their minds with something: distraction, stimulation, noise. But Marcus understood something profound. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He wrote those words for himself and for us because he saw what we often ignore. The mind is loudest when the world is not. As Marcus sits, he doesn't try to control his thoughts. He simply watches them. Thoughts drift in like passing clouds, worries about wars, pressures of leadership, the weight of an empire. And then they drift out again. He doesn't chase them. He doesn't fight them. He allows them to exist without letting them command him. This is the practice the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity, the mental rehearsal of life's difficulties. Not to panic, not to fear, but to prepare. Imagine him sitting cross-legged on the cold stone floor, taking slow breaths, asking himself quietly, what obstacles might I face today? What challenges may arise? And instead of fearing them, he responds in his mind, I will meet them with calm. I will meet them with reason. I will meet them as a human being should. It's the same mindset elite athletes use before a championship, the same mindset soldiers use before stepping into uncertainty, the same mindset CEOs practice before defining moments. But Marcus practiced it 2,000 years ago in silence, before the world had even awakened. Modern neuroscience echoes this ancient truth. Studies show that people who spend 5 minutes each morning visualizing challenges calmly are significantly more resilient throughout the day. Their emotional reactivity decreases. Their problem-solving increases. Their stress response is lower by measurable margins, some studies say up to 20%. It turns out the emperor wasn't performing philosophy. He was performing mental engineering. Take a breath with me now. Inhale slowly and exhale. Notice how even a single conscious breath changes your state. Now whisper in your mind, I meet challenges with calm. Good. This is your reset. Every 50 seconds or so, I will invite you back into your body, into your breath, just as Marcus did, to keep the mind anchored and awake. Now imagine Marcus shifting slightly, adjusting his posture as a beam of early dawn light begins to seep through the palace window. This is the moment when the world feels fragile, quiet, unformed. Most people never experience this feeling because they wake into noise. But Marcus woke into possibility. He knew that if he could master his mind before sunrise, the world could not shake him afterward. He practiced detachment, not emotional numbness, but emotional clarity. He asked himself, What if someone insults me today? What if someone challenges me? What if someone betrays me? And he answered with a line he wrote many times in his meditations. The things that trouble you belong to your judgments, not to the world. He wasn't rehearsing dread. He was rehearsing strength. Because when you've already seen the worst in your mind, the real world cannot break you. Take another breath now. Say quietly, my emotions are tools, not enemies. Let it settle. Let it become part of your inner dialogue. Marcus didn't stop at mental rehearsal. He dipped deeper into stillness, allowing himself to become present, fully, completely present. He listened to the subtle crackle of the oil lamp, the faint footsteps of a guard far down the corridor, the gentle whisper of wind brushing through the curtains. Every sound sharpened his awareness. Every sensation grounded him. Every breath anchored him into reality. In silence, he cultivated the thing the modern world desperately lacks: clarity. And there's something important here. Stillness didn't remove his problems. It removed his panic about them. Stillness didn't prevent difficulties. It prepared him for them. Stillness didn't silence the world. It strengthened his mind so the world could no longer control him. This is why Stoicism is misunderstood. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering perception. It's about creating a mind that is unshaken by chaos because it has already rehearsed calm. As the minutes pass, Marcus has one final thought before rising. He tells himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words would become one of his most famous teachings, but in this moment they are not philosophy. They are armor, mental armor, the armor he will wear into the day. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine if you practice this same ritual, 5 minutes of stillness, 5 minutes of calm visualization every morning for the next 2 weeks. Imagine your clarity, your patience, your emotional power. Imagine walking into your day already prepared for every possible twist. It would change everything. Take one more breath. Inhale, exhale. Say this with me now: I am ready for the world. Good. And now, as Marcus slowly rises from the floor, the world outside is beginning to wake. Servants move quietly through the halls. The sun begins its slow climb into the sky. But Marcus is already ahead of the day. His mind is tempered. His emotions are trained. His spirit is steady. And yet his morning is far from complete. Because the emperor knew that stillness alone was not enough. After the silence came something even more powerful: the sharpening of the mind through deliberate reflection. The written truth. The journal that became the most influential self-improvement book in human history. And that is where we go next. Into part 3, where Marcus Aurelius puts his thoughts onto paper and, without knowing it, writes a guide that would shape humanity for millennia. Part 3, the command of the mind. The sun is still below the horizon when Marcus Aurelius rises from his silent meditation. His breath steady, his mind calm, his emotions anchored. But the morning ritual of an emperor is far from over, because Marcus knew that stillness alone isn't enough. Silence clears the mind, but writing shapes it. And now, in the dim glow of dawn, he turns to the practice that would one day become one of the most important books in human history, a book he never intended anyone to read. The private journal we now call Meditations. Imagine him moving slowly through his quarters, the marble floor cool beneath his feet. He picks up a simple wax tablet, not a decorated object of royalty, but a tool of thought worn from years of use. Marcus sits near the window where the first faint hints of light begin to stretch across the horizon. This is where he takes command of his mind. He doesn't write poetry. He doesn't write to impress. He doesn't write to entertain. He writes to sharpen the blade of his own character. Marcus believes something most people today rarely consider. The soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. And so he wrote to choose his colors deliberately. He wrote to steer his thoughts before the world could shape them for him. He wrote because he knew that if he didn't control his mind would control him. This wasn't journaling as a hobby. This was journaling as survival. Watch him now as he presses the stylus gently into the wax, carving out truths he needed to remember. Control what you can. What you cannot control, accept. Speak little. Act much. It is not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. These lines were not philosophical decoration. They were reminders, battle plans, declarations of inner strength. Every sentence he wrote was a reinforcement of identity, a message to his future self. Take a breath with me. Inhale, exhale. Whisper silently, I choose my thoughts. This small reset brings you back to the present, just as Marcus returned to himself each morning. Now imagine Marcus thinking about the challenges he would face that day: political pressures, military decisions, betrayals, illness, famine, war. And yet instead of falling into fear, he writes the antidote: if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. In this moment, you see the reality of Stoicism. It is about being emotionless. It's about being unbreakable. It's about choosing courage, clarity, and responsibility over panic, noise, and blame. Modern psychology echoes Marcus's approach. Studies show that people who journal daily experience up to a 30% reduction in anxiety, improved emotional regulation, and significantly enhanced decision-making skills. Writing pulls tangled thoughts into clarity. It turns stress into strategy. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and self-control. Marcus didn't know the science, but he understood the principle. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and journaling was how he upgraded that quality. As he continues carving words into wax, notice something remarkable: Marcus never wrote for others. He wasn't building a legacy or composing literature or crafting wisdom for future generations. He was talking to himself. He was building a private fortress inside his mind. He was setting standards for who he wanted to be, and the world beyond him, chaotic, unpredictable, violent, could never take that away. Reset with me again. Inhale slowly, exhale. Now say this: thoughts shape destiny. Hold that for a moment. Let it stay with you. Marcus now pauses, studying the lines he has written. Each one is a mirror, each one a correction, each one a sharpening. He believed in holding himself accountable even when no one was watching, especially when no one was watching. This is why meditations feel so intimate. We're reading a man negotiating with his own soul. He reminds himself not to be consumed by anger. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? He reminds himself to stay grounded. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. He reminds himself of humility. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculation about others. And with every reminder, every sentence, every stroke of the stylus, he tightens the reins of his mind. Now imagine what would happen if you practiced the same ritual. What if every morning before the world intruded, you wrote down 3 simple truths: what you can control, what you must accept, and the person you intend to be today? What if you spent 5 minutes defining your mind instead of letting your mind define you? The change would be profound. Take another breath. Whisper, I shape my mind. Let the words sink in. Marcus stands now, looking at his writing one last time. The sun has begun its climb, sending pale golden light across the room. His thoughts are aligned. His emotions are steady. His intentions are clear. He has built his mental armor not from steel, but from sentences. And as he places the tablet aside, he knows his mind is prepared for whatever the day may bring. But Marcus Aurelius also understood something essential. A powerful mind needs a resilient body. He believed a weak body cannot carry a strong mind. And so the next part of his morning was as deliberate as his meditation and journaling. After he commanded his thoughts, he strengthened the only physical kingdom he truly owned: his body. And that is where we go next. Into part 4, where the emperor rises and trains not for beauty, not for pride, but for resilience, discipline, and the endurance required to carry a great mind. Part 4, the physical duty. The sun has just begun to rise over Rome when Marcus Aurelius completes his journaling. His mind sharpened, his emotions calm, his purpose defined, but his morning ritual is not yet finished. Because Marcus knew a truth that many people today forget: a strong mind cannot survive inside a weak body. And so, as the empire stirs awake, the philosopher king prepares for the next discipline of his dawn routine: the strengthening of the physical self. Imagine Marcus stepping into the courtyard of the palace. The air is still cool, carrying the faint scent of stone and cypress trees. The guards at their posts nod respectfully, but Marcus is not here as an emperor. He is here as a human being, one who understands with complete clarity that the body is the vessel that carries the mind. He once wrote, You don't have to turn this into something grand. Just take the next step. And this was his step physical movement at the break of dawn. He stretches slowly, deliberately feeling the tension in his muscles loosen. No heavy armor, no ceremonial robes, just a simple tunic. Marcus wasn't training for vanity. He wasn't chasing aesthetics or praise. He wasn't sculpting his muscles for admiration. He moved his body to build resilience, to develop endurance, to prevent the fatigue that destroys clarity. He believed deeply that physical neglect leads to mental decay. As Marcus begins his gentle exercises, imagine the rhythm of his movements, controlled, steady, intentional. He practices mobility, bending and rotating his joints with care. He walks the length of the courtyard, breathing deeply with each step. Sometimes he practiced simple combat drills with wooden weapons, not to dominate, but to discipline himself, to remind his body, you are alive, you are capable, you are meant to move. Now take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale. Say quietly, my body carries my mind. This reset brings you back into your physical self, just as Marcus returned to his. What makes this part of his routine so fascinating is how modern science confirms what he instinctively knew. Studies show that even 10 minutes of morning movement increase oxygen flow to the brain, boosting focus and creativity by up to 14%. Light exercise increases neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to adapt. Movement improves emotional regulation, reduces anxiety, and strengthens mental resilience. Marcus had none of these studies, but he had experience, and experience taught him something simple. When the body is sluggish, the mind follows. Picture the emperor now walking in slow circles around the courtyard, his hands clasped behind his back, his shoulders relaxed, his breath calm. He is not rushing. He is not forcing anything. There is no intensity, no competition, no pressure. Just motion. Simple, steady motion. He once wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Morning movement helped him reshape that estimate. It allowed him to greet the day without a racing mind or a heavy spirit. Reset again with me. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Whisper the phrase, I move with intention. Let that settle into your body. Now imagine Marcus lifting a wooden practice sword, not heavy, but weighted enough to engage his muscles. He swings it slowly through the air, practicing form, not force. He understood that consistency matters more than intensity. This is something most people forget. They imagine growth comes from massive dramatic effort. But Marcus knew the truth: discipline is built in increments, not explosions. He would rather train 10 minutes every day than 1 hour once a week. Because discipline is a rhythm, not a performance. Picture him now completing a final movement, lowering the practice sword and standing in stillness again. Sweat gathers lightly on his forehead. His breath deepens, but his mind remains steady. He has aligned the body with the mind. He has brought both into harmony, and this harmony is what gave him the strength to face the endless demands of leadership without breaking. There is a line from Marcus that captures this moment perfectly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. His morning training was an enactment of this law. Movement wasn't just exercise, it was preparation for adversity. It was teaching his body that obstacles are invitations to grow. Now imagine what this practice could do for you. What would happen if every morning you moved your body for just 10 minutes, not a workout, not a program? Just movement, stretching, walking, breathing. Imagine the clarity you'd feel, the energy, the reduction in stress. Imagine facing your day with a nervous system that's already awake, already balanced, already prepared for pressure. This is what Marcus understood, and this is what only 1% of people practice today. Take one more breath. Inhale, exhale. Whisper, I am ready, and let that readiness travel through you. Marcus now finishes his movement training. The sun has risen fully. The golden light touches the courtyard stones, and Rome begins to vibrate with life. The clatter of market stalls, the voices of citizens, the march of soldiers. But Marcus stands in the center of it all, calm, grounded, and physically alive. His mind is sharpened. His body is prepared. His spirit is steady. He has done more before sunrise than most people do in half a day. But his morning is not complete yet. Because after the mind and the body, there is one final ritual. The ritual that defined his leadership, his morality, and his unshakable identity. a vow he made to himself every morning, a stoic commitment that shaped not just his actions, but his character. And that is where we go next. Into part 5, the vow that guided the emperor's every choice, every decision, every moment of virtue. Part 5, the Stoic commitment. The sun now rises fully over Rome, casting golden light across the palace courtyard where Marcus Aurelius has completed his morning training. His breath has steadied his muscles, awakened his mind sharpened. But for Marcus, the morning is not complete until he performs the most important ritual of all, the ritual that shapes not only his decisions, but his identity. Because a disciplined mind and a resilient body are powerful, but without virtue they are directionless. And Marcus Aurelius believed that every day must begin with a vow, a commitment to the principles that define a good life. Imagine him now walking slowly from the courtyard back into his private chamber. The palace grows louder as Rome awakens, distant chatter from merchants setting up stalls, the rhythmic march of soldiers changing shifts, the hum of the city coming alive. But within Marcus there is no noise, only a quiet certainty, a clarity that can only come from ritual. He sits at a wooden table, places his hands gently on the surface, and whispers to himself the line he wrote again and again. If it is right, do it. If it is not, do not do it. This is more than moral advice. It is a compass, a foundation, a standard to rise toward. Because for Marcus, virtue was not theoretical. It was practical, tangible. It was the one thing humans can control fully. He believed waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. And so each morning he chose one virtue to live by that day: patience, courage, discipline, humility, or compassion, and built his decisions around it like an architect designing a temple. Take a breath now. Inhale deeply, exhale gently. Whisper to yourself, I choose virtue. This is your reset, your anchor, your return to what matters. Marcus understood that the world would test him. People would frustrate him. Circumstances would challenge him. Politics would pressure him. Loss would wound him. And so before the day even began, he strengthened his inner foundation. He told himself, when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and reflect. It wasn't enough to face the world with strength. He wanted to face the world with goodness. Modern psychology agrees. Studies on behavioral priming show that choosing a value at the start of the day increases ethical decision-making, reduces stress, and raises emotional intelligence significantly. In fact, individuals who consciously pick a guiding principle each morning experience greater self-control and lower impulsivity throughout the day. Marcus didn't need the data, he lived the results. Picture him now staring out a window overlooking Rome. The city is alive, beautiful, chaotic, full of challenges he must face as emperor. And yet his posture is calm, his gaze steady, his expression soft. Why? Because he has already made the decision that matters most. Not what tasks to complete, not what meetings to hold, but who he is going to be today. Reset with me again. Inhale, exhale. Say quietly, I decide who I become. Let those words settle deep inside you. Marcus now reflects on the people he will encounter: generals seeking counsel, politicians seeking favor, citizens seeking justice. Some will challenge him, some will irritate him, some may even betray him. But Marcus has prepared for all of this. He reminds himself, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In other words, when the world pushes him, he will not allow it to reshape his character. This was the true power of his morning routine. Not the silence, not the writing, not the training, but the choice to live by virtue, a choice repeated day after day, year after year, until virtue became instinct, and instinct became legacy. Imagine if you practice this. Imagine waking each morning and choosing one guiding virtue. Today I will be patient. Today I will be courageous. Today I will be disciplined. Imagine making every decision through that lens. How much stress would dissolve? How much clarity would return? How much unnecessary conflict would fade? This single practice can transform an entire life. Marcus knew it, and now you do too. Take another breath. Inhale, exhale, whisper. Virtue guides me. Feel the strength in those words. Marcus now rises from his seat, his mind aligned. his body awakened, his spirit anchored in virtue. Everything within him is calibrated, harmonized, prepared. And as he steps into the corridor now bright with morning sun, he is no longer simply a ruler. He is a man guided by principle, a man who has chosen intention over impulse, a man aligned with his highest self. The palace begins to buzz with life. Advisors await him. Decisions demand him. The empire calls for him. But Marcus Aurelius enters the day protected not by soldiers, but by the strength built in the hours before sunrise. It is here in these quiet rituals that he becomes the kind of man who can carry the weight of the world without letting it crush him. And now the question turns to you. What would your life look like if you adopted this vow each morning? What would shift in your relationships, your work, your emotions, your sense of meaning? What would happen if you lived each day as though virtue, not convenience, were the compass guiding your choices? Reset with me one final time. Inhale, exhale. Whisper, I choose who I become. Feel its power. Marcus Aurelius takes his first steps into the day, knowing that no matter what challenges await him, external chaos, unexpected problems, human conflict, he has already anchored himself in strength, clarity, and virtue. The world will test him, but he has already chosen how he will respond. And now as we reach the end of this journey through the Emperor's morning, the message becomes clear. The transformation doesn't happen at sunrise. It happens in the rituals before it, in the silence, the reflection, the movement, the commitment. This is what the 1% do at 5 in the morning, not to be extraordinary, but to become fully human. If you're ready, take one last breath and prepare to carry these lessons into your own dawn. If you want more Stoic routines, life lessons, and ancient wisdom you can use every single day, then don't let this be the last time we meet at dawn. Like the video, share it with someone who's ready to rise higher and subscribe to Making Life Better. Because together we are building a community of disciplined, resilient, and purpose-driven minds. Return to this routine every morning and watch your life transform one dawn at a time. And before you scroll away, here's your final Stoic challenge. Comment one word that defines the person you choose to be tomorrow. Just one word, one intention, one commitment. Type it below and let it be the first step toward your new identity.